So, Hare Krishna, Prabhu is Mother. Hare Krishna, Prabhu is Mother. Welcome all of you for this Bhagavad Gita session. Let us all take the blessings. Jagannath Baldeswara Mai ki jai. Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai. Pancha Tattva ki jai. Shri Goswami ki jai. Guru Parampara ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Gurudev ki jai. Very good. Today we will be taking from 12th chapter, verse number 15. So let us say the prayers. Om Gyantimarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Parishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravakta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So devotional service, that is the 12th chapter, very important chapter. Today's verse is 12.15. So let us recite the verse. Yasmano dujate loko lokano dujate chayah harshamarshavayo dvegay mukto yasachame priyah. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So we have been seeing this wonderful chapter, especially yesterday's 13th and 14th, right? Where it said that the devotee takes all the sufferings as Krishna's kindness to avoid reaction. In fact, in yesterday's class, Vandamadi told token trouble, right? TT, see, it's taken. They take this as a token trouble. And see, a lot of wonderful qualities which pleases the Lord is being given in from the verses from 13 to 19. Some of the last, it started from last verse, 13 and 14. Some of them were tolerant, non-envious, free from proprietorship, satisfied, self-controlled, determined because of sense control, mind and intelligence fixed entirely on the Supreme Lord. So there are 7 qualities in the last 2 verses. Now in the 15th verse, again, 2 more additional verses, additional qualities Krishna is specifying, which will please him. That is, not get affected and does not affect others. The main thing is we should never cause distress to others. See, not get affected means because a devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness, the material circumstances cannot move him, not disturbed by anyone. So such a state is obtained by the grace of Krishna. The second one is does not affect others. See, no one is put into anxiety, difficulty, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee because he is kind to everyone. See, in the material world, we find a lot of favoritism. People prefer to have someone whom they like very much. Their preference is based on certain qualities which that person possesses. And more so, they like him because he performs activities which are to their liking. And in any walk of life, we can see people talk. I like this. That's my favorite. I love to be in his company, etc., etc. So they show such preferences because it matches their personal criteria based on their background and experience. The point we have to understand is that all these preferences, like favoritism and all, they're all temporary, and it depends along as long as one's criteria is met. But whatever Krishna says is final and eternal, and we ought to have the unflinching faith in Krishna's instructions. That's why in this chapter of the Vishnu service, 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 13 to 19, Krishna reveals who are all very dear to him. So in the last line of each of these verses, Krishna says in 12, 13, 14, Yomad Bhakta Same Priyaha, he is very dear to me. In today's verse, he says, Mukto Yasa Sachame Priyaha, he is very dear to me. In the 16th verse, he says, Yomad Bhakta Same Priyaha, he is very dear to me. 17th verse, he says, Bhaktiman Yas Same Priyaha, he is very dear to me. And 18, 19, he says, Bhaktiman me Priyo Naraha, he is very dear to me. See, in one of the classes, my Guru Maharaj, he gave wonderful instructions to all of us. He said, also recite 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita daily, shlokas and translation. Why? Because he said this would help us to remember the qualities which pleases Krishna. And thereby it would inspire all of us to put them into practice in our day-to-day life. So reading 12th chapter every day, shlokas and translation is very, very important. See, one of the important lessons we should also learn from one of the pastimes in Bhagavatam, Mrigari hunter is in the way he paid his obeisances after whisking away the ants on the ground. See, he did not want his act of devotional service to be a disturbance to other living entities, even if it is an ant. See, many times we knowingly or unknowingly inconvenience other living entities in the process of doing our services or even sadhana. See, we cannot take a moral ground saying that I am serving Krishna and others are supposed to glorify me instead of getting annoyed at my service. We cannot say that, right? See, even if our chanting, very important point to understand, even if our chanting is a disturbance to others, it happens in every family, right? Some may not like. So even if it is disturbance to others, who may or may not know the value of Krishna consciousness, what we should do, we should leave them at peace and move away to a different place instead of confronting them. So this way, see, the living entity may not be inspired to take up Krishna consciousness at that point, but they will at least leave with a positive impression about Krishna consciousness. That's why 12.15 is very important. No, he by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is occupied in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. So the first condition Krishna says is that we should not put anyone into difficulty. He does not, see, Krishna does not qualify with words like knowingly or inadvertently. No. The person who is inconvenienced by us will not care whether we do it knowingly or unknowingly, right? So what is the best way out? We simply ask for genuine forgiveness from them and ensure that we either move away from them or do not repeat the same mistake. The next condition Krishna says is that we should not be disturbed by others. See, we predominantly get disturbed by others in two ways. One, first is when others are disturbed by our Krishna conscious activities, ignore or neglect us, what happens? We get disturbed. The fact that they are not appreciating or respecting the value of our devotion. So this is a sign of immaturity. If others are not appreciating our devotional service, it simply means we have to improve the quality of our devotion. Okay. Also, you have to keep in mind that we are not doing our devotional service for someone to glorify us. Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadish kamayi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we say in right Shishtastakam. So we are doing our service for Krishna's pleasure, not for our own pleasure. And the second is, without any reason or without any inspiration or instigation, someone may come and disturb us physically or mentally. This is Adi Bhautik misery and it is unavoidable. See, when we are disturbed by these Adi Bhautik miseries, it indirectly means that we are expecting the process of devotional service which we are doing to mitigate our miseries. So while devotional service is naturally, it will mitigate in any way, but it is the expectation of results and our impatience that will kill our bliss in devotional service. Krishna says we should avoid being disturbed by others as well. Only when we follow these two conditions, along with being occupied in all circumstances, Krishna says we will be dear to him. See, the hunter, Mrigari, before getting Narada Muni's association, he was enjoying putting others into difficulty. Right? He was half killing the animals and all, right? So much difficulty. Such an anti-Bhagavad Gita life he led. But after getting the pure association of a great saint like Narada Muni, he turned into a saintly devotee. What happens? No, he would not even like an ant to be disturbed by his devotional service. So this is the great miracle that Narada Muni performed on the hunter by giving his association in causeless mercy. So Narada Muni tells Mrigari, oh hunter, good qualities like non-violence which you have developed are not very astonishing. For those engaged in the Lord's devotional service are never inclined to give pain to others because of envy. So this inclination to give pain to others, especially unprovoked, This has its roots in our envious nature. That's what Prabhupada very beautifully writes in the purport of 12.15 in this verse. Generally, a materialistic person becomes very happy when there is something for his sense gratification and his body. But when he sees that others have something for their sense gratification and he has not got it, he is sorry and envious. So basic tendency is that no one should be happier than me or enjoy more than me in this world. When they do that, see, when they do not have what I own, when they hanker for what I have, or feel disappointed for not owning it, that gives me great happiness and a sense of accomplishment because they don't have what I have, right? And in every step of our life, we strive only for this goal in a subtle way. But the reality is topsy-turvy, ulta. It is we who are helplessly looking at everyone and hankering to possess what they have. Unfortunately, and Krishna has cleverly designed this world in such a way that everyone will have at least something of what others don't have and will not have something that others have. See, our desire is to have everything that everyone else has and a little more also. So, when this impractical expectation is not fulfilled, the natural outcome is that we become envious of others. So, if those people are within our power of influence, we hurt them with our words, via actions and thoughts, and enjoy their suffering. But if they are not beyond, but they are beyond our capacity to hurt them, then what happens? Then we get hurt ourselves by becoming dejected, depressed, discouraged, disappointed, right? This is how envy works in the middle world. See, the hunter fortunately escaped this whirlpool of envy and violence by performing sincere devotional service under the guidance of a wonderful Acharya like Narada Muni, who is above and beyond such anarthas. So Narada Muni, being a pure devotee, not only was a non-envious himself, but he also strived hard to make others non-violent and non-envious. So Prabhupada says in one of his purport, the aim of Vaishnava Acharyas is to create a non-envious society for the welfare of all. In this context, I'd like to meditate on a beautiful prayer from Srimad Bhagavatam 5.18.9, where one of the glorious disciples of our Narada Muni, Prahlad Maharaj, he prays, Swastyastu Vishwasya Kala Prasidatam Dhyayantu Bhutani Shivam Mitodhiya Manasya Badram Bhajata Dadokshaje Aveshatam no Matirapya Haituki. Please hear the translation. This we should always, we should have in front of us always is a daily and day out. He says, Prahlad Maharaj is telling, may there be good fortune throughout the universe. And may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing Bhakti Yoga. For by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Shri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in the thought of Him. So, Bhakti Yoga is the only process that can destroy envy from its roots. So, the hunter Mrigari practiced Bhakti Yoga following the instruction of Sri Narada Muni and began thinking of the welfare of even the tiny ants. So, let us take inspiration from this prayer and the life of Mrigari to shed all traces of envy from our hearts by practicing sincere devotional service. See, there are only two things in the scriptures. One is instructions about correcting our contaminated behavior, and the other is transcendence. There is nothing else in the scriptures. See, all different episodes, the pastimes are there to correct our contaminated behavior. So, how the behavior pattern should be there for Krishna conscious person is explained in each of these verses. And with that behavior only we can enter into the transcendence, and that is explained. So that's it. See, now, since last so many years, we are discussing Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Even now, if we do not touch the purity, then what are we discussing daily? Day in and day out, we have to be on guard, follow the instructions, and maintain the purity in behavior. See, all the acharyas, everybody suggests something by through these Bhagavad Gita classes and Bhagavatam classes. They tell you these are the qualities you have to develop. But they cannot come and to your home and see that whether you are following it. They cannot guard you, right? But you must be on your own self guard. You should be on your guard. You should, or you should have that determination and faith in Krishna and follow the instructions as it is. So this is a very important point. This is a wonderful verse. More and more lessons can be learned from here. But I'll stop here. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Thank you very much. Mancha kalpatarubhya kripa sindhu bhayavcha patikanam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.